Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name is Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as have notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. Supervisor makes me pull 1,500 plus pounds main power wire by myself. You break your shoulder and lose your job. Abbreviations and fake names. Me is me, obviously. Jesse is the self-righteous supervisor. Hector is the friendly coworker. And here's some context. I work as an electrician. I had done so for over a year before leaving the state for a few months to sort out some family things. Once I returned home, I got my old job back. By the time I had returned to the company, they had grown quite a bit. Lots of new faces and lots of new a-holes to avoid. So the first day came and I arrived on time. Also, note I spoke to the owner of the company, good friend, and asked him what I should bring for the days of work. No reply. My own fault I came unprepared and underdressed because I wasn't given a uniform yet, but anyway. As I pull up to the job, I realize I'm the first one there, so I wait in my car listening to some music while eating my breakfast. Now the jobs normally start at 7 a.m. sharp. 8 o'clock finally rolls around and I see someone with the company attire. I go up to him and introduce myself. Hey, I'm U/sub_standard space. I'll be starting work with you guys today. Nice to meet you. Hey, yeah, we were told you'd be coming. Do you have any tools with you? A few hand tools. I wasn't given a list by the boss and I tried to ask but got no reply. My bad. No problem. Do you know how to wire up fluorescent lights? I sure do. Perfect. Let's get you started on that. So, I'm going about my business, wiring up all the fluorescent lights that have been put up with my headphones in, nose to the grindstone, and in walks in Jesse. So, there I am doing my job, and quite efficiently, might I add, when Jesse seemingly sneaks over to me, jumps on the side of the lift I'm currently working on, which breaks the Oasis codes by the way, and pulls the headphones out of my ears, which obviously hurt and was quite surprising. He begins to talk, and things go like this. First off, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you wearing? And who the fuck told you to do this? I was shocked and told him it was my first day back with the company. I hadn't gotten my uniform yet, so I had come in simple clothes. I explained that I wasn't told what tools I would need, and that's why I was underprepared. He proceeds to tell me to get down off the lift, and I do. At the same time, the GC, general contractor for the whole job, walks in. As I'm getting my ass chewed out for being unprepared, he sees the GC and gestures for him to come over. As he does, he arrives and the SRS starts to insult me in front of him, saying how unprofessional I looked and how stupid I must have been for coming in like this. At this point, the GC looks quite uncomfortable. The GC makes an excuse to leave the conversation, but not before Jesse gets off one more thing. Anyway, I'll fix this issue right now. HR turns to me and Jesse says, "Get the fuck out of my job site and come back when you're an actual worker." So I did. I called up my boss and he then chewed SRS out. I rolled back up to the job a few minutes later, happy to see Hector smiling to see me back, and I was left alone for most of the day. But as the week progressed, things would get worse and worse. At one point, he came in furious, not particularly at me, just because he's an absolute shithead with zero patience. Anyway, he comes in with a large tool bag with lots of random things, then he just stops at me and looks at me and throws the bag at the floor, spilling everything all over. I had just swept, and he turns back to me and says, "Clean it up." I was dumbfounded, standing there with my jaw open. He walks away with not a single F given. I turn to Hector, and he's looking at me just as shocked. That was the last straw for me. I'm a good worker and I do my job well. I work overtime constantly and don't need this kind of treatment. So I decided to make myself feel better about my job situation by screwing with Jesse as much as possible. For the next week, I would take small tools or parts he was using while walking away and throw them into the work trailer. As this kept happening, and since he had no idea where his tools were going, he was buying new screwdrivers it seemed like every day. On top of that, he began to steal spools of wire off the job and put it into his truck to resell. I took pictures of him doing so and saved them for laters. Also, got a few videos of him nearly attacking other companies' workers for being too loud with the Mexican music. What a prick. Friday finally rolls around and it's main feed day. Now, if you don't know about how underground electric works, you might not fully grasp how difficult it is to pull by yourself. It's very hard. The wire arrives 6 hours late. We start pulling at 2 a.m. We were supposed to be off at 2 today with full 8-hour pay. We worked late that day. As everything gets put on rollers and the feed gets lead, I see Jesse standing by the pulley doing nothing but waiting for me to get everything ready. I don't say anything, I just do it. Now he has an electric pulley powered by a small remote. Me on the other end is pushing all of this 600 wire, the spools are bigger than me and over 1,500 pounds each, after over 3 hours of me nearly killing myself with no brakes because he wouldn't take his damn hand off the button. Eventually, he walks over to me to complain about how slowly I'm feeding it to him. I told him if he would have helped me, it could have gone faster. He no likey. Are you seriously suggesting I help you with your job? What are you good for if you can't do the one thing I give you? It's not hard. Just feed the fucking wire, you dumb off. I was furious. I took a deep breath and simply took it on the chin. Sorta, kinda, not really. As he was going over back to his truck, he was walking by the wire spools when he slipped on some wet cardboard I had been using to put my knees on, causing him to slip and fall into the spool and hit the large bolts attached to the side. I could visibly see that his shoulder was out of place. Ouch. I felt no pity. Seeing him wriggle on the floor in pain for a few seconds before helping him back up was very satisfying. Got him in his truck and he left, probably to the doctors, I'm guessing. After the week was over, I drove over to the management office to speak with my boss. I told him about how Jesse had been treating me and the other employees. Others, and even the GC, constantly giving everyone shit about anything he could. He wasn't happy and told me he'd look into the matter a few days later. And I found out he was trying to sue the company for his arm getting hurt on the job, saying he was hurt by all the wire I pulled in, like I had some sort of impact on his lack of balance. My boss came back at him with the evidence of him stealing from the company and nearly costing him his jobs. He dropped the idea of suing and was fired the next day. I got a raise. And now you really are being deported. 2 disclaimers. 1, I was relatively young and naive. And 2, I was in love. Protagonists are me, obviously, and CB, aka the arsehole, with guest appearances from NM1 and NM2, Nice Man 1 and 2. This all occurred pre-mobile phone and web, and happened 2 weeks prior to traveling to the UK from Australia for the first time with my live-in British boyfriend of 18 months, with a view to living there for the next year or 2. I met CB when he came backpacking to Australia. After dating for a few months, we moved in together. CB was on a 12-month working holiday visa in Australia, but got a 12-month extension on a trip to New Zealand, allowing him to remain in Australia for up to 2 years. Remember this important point. I'd just put down the deposit on my flight. He'd already had a ticket, and we'd given a notice to our apartment, quit our jobs, arranged with his parents to collect us at Heathrow, etc., etc. Then, on Friday night, CB simply doesn't come home from work. I assume boozy send-off, sleeping at a workmate's place, home in the morning, no problem. But then CB doesn't come home Saturday and I start to panic thinking he's dead or some similar horror scenario. I call his workmates, but they know nothing. I finally find his boss on Sunday and am told that CB has been staying there and is in a real state and will call me later. What the fuck? CB finally calls me later that night, still at his boss's house, and tells me the following tale. On Friday, he was interviewed by immigration, who informed him that, as he had breached the conditions of his visa by working in one job for more than 3 months, he needed to go back to the UK. He didn't love me anymore and was instead going to Queensland for a 2-week holiday before going back to the UK alone. He'd come home tomorrow to collect his bags. What the fuck? I'm crying. I'm asking why. I'm begging for an explanation. I'm crying some more. By the way, if at this point you're thinking I'm unbelievably stupid, I refer you to my earlier disclaimers. So after crying for a few hours, I rang my girlfriends for sympathy and support and more crying, then I crawled back into bed. At work the next day, one of these girlfriend rings me and says that she's calling BS on CB's story, and that I need to ring this number and speak to NM1, who's an actual immigration official. NM1 tells me, incredibly kindly and patiently, that the story is indeed 7 kinds of BS, and that if someone had breached their visa and it had come to the attention of immigration, they'd be scooped up immediately and not given a free pass for a 2-week send-off to our tour of sunny Queensland. He also informed me, while no one from the department had interviewed CB and there was no current file on him, upon checking his visa status, CB was in fact in Australia illegally, as he had not submitted a request for his visa extension when he traveled to New Zealand the year before. It turns out that being automatically eligible for a 12-month extension did not mean automatically receiving the extension. OMFG. I may be naive, but damn, I can think quick when I'm angry. I told NM1 that if he wanted to apprehend CB, he would come do so at our apartment that night, after CB came to collect his bags and give me some money that he owed me. Suffice to say, it all went down like clockwork. CB handed over cash, dragged his shit out of the house in a couple of garbage bags. Somehow his suitcase couldn't be located. Oops. And was grabbed by NM1 and NM2 and sundry police as he walked down our drive to the street. 3 weeks or so later, NM2 rang me to let me know that after spending 3 weeks in immigration detention, CB had been deported to the UK as an unlawful non-citizen. Score! CB also had to pay for the costs of his own removal, which strikes me as the icing on the cake. My friend contacted the super fabulous travel agent and told her the story, and I got my whole airfare deposit back. I found a new apartment and got another job and has never spoken to or looked at him again. Angry is way better than sad. Out of sight really is out of mind. TLDR, boyfriend told a BS story during breakup and it came back to bite him. AKA, revenge is great. And there you have it, folks. The end of today's ProRevenge. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like on the video as well as subscribe with notifications turned on. That way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.